Well, I guess this is time for one of those wah 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 things, right? I'm going to make the introduction to this video a little short. Reason being, see that? That's not cigarette smoke. Don't smoke. If you see me smoking, I'm on fire. Put me out. But it's cold in here. Had the heat running for a little while. I probably got it up to a nice cozy 30. Maybe not even that. Had to shut the heater off in order to do my little intro to the video here. So needless to say, I'm going to turn the heater back on because it's cold. Colder than my ex-wife, and that's pretty darn cold. But anyhow, this is going to be just getting the transmission in, getting everything fitted. I did do a test fit for the drive shaft. And, well, not the drive shaft itself because everything's not in yet. But I found a yoke to go in the back of this transmission. Oddly enough, I got one I had a old 98 Sonoma, GMC Sonoma truck, 4-wheel drive, out back that I've been parting out. And oddly enough, the yoke from that fits the Borg Warner. Gotta love Chevy GM products for that reason. Everything fits everything. I mean, you can get, the Quadrajet carburetor. I don't know if I've told you guys how much I love the Quadrajet carburetor. People call them all sorts of bad names, but I love them. You can put a Quadrajet on a 283, and it will run perfect. And then you put that same carburetor on a 454, and it'll run perfect. They're like the best thing since pump toothpaste. Does anybody remember pump toothpaste? Nonetheless, anyhow, the drive shaft fit. It's the same thing. 4-wheel drive Sonoma 98 fits my, 1960s Borg Warner, or maybe 1970-ish. I'm not sure what year it is, but anyway, it's unimportant. It fits. It's perfect. But the problem is the Gremlin yoke is way smaller. So that's kind of what I'm up against. I'm trying to find what they call a bastard joint. That's what we called them in the day, but I guess it's not politically correct anymore. I don't know, because the word bastard, I guess, is not politically correct or acceptable anymore. If it ever was, I don't know. But I think the combination U-joints, asymmetrical U-joints, conversion joints, I don't know. But I'm a little froggy still from having the flu. Pardon me, a couple weeks ago. Wow. We'll just leave that on tape. Why cut it out, right? Everybody gets sick once in a while. Well, some people don't. So I know I've talked to guys never had a headache. I can't imagine that. I wish. Anyhow, back to the car. I've been searching some, and I found out that everybody's closed on Christmas weekend. That's okay. They deserve it, right? Everybody deserves it. I feel bad if you had to work, well, not necessarily weekend. It's Monday, but I'm off because I work for the state. So, I get all sorts of holidays. I even get snow days. Can you believe that? But anyhow, a lot of people aren't working, so I called a bunch of places that sell bastard joints, and yep, nobody's open. So that's cool with me. At first you're a little irritated, like, dadgummit, I want to get this joint, but get started because I got to get it ordered because I'd like to put it in next weekend because next week's New Year's, and my goal is to get this car going by New Year's. And I'm afraid that I may not be able to find this joint because I've not been able to find one online. And I'm not even sure if the drive shaft's the right length yet, so I may end up having to have a custom shaft made. It is what it is. I use a place in Florida I don't even know if they're still open, but I'm going to give them a call and see if they still make drive shafts and have one shipped to me. There's a bunch of other places around, but I know these guys. I trust these guys. I've had shafts made before from by them, so I'm just gonna, order one. I think there's a place in Knoxville too that I could use, but we'll see. We'll play it by ear. Hopefully, we can make this one work. So if I can get a bastard joint, we'll be good to go. That'll be my hunt for the October. For the what's that? There's a movie out there, The Hunt for the something October. But anyway, it's a submarine or something. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and try to get that done. But in the meantime, today, I know I said I was going to make this short. It's getting long. It's cold. I want to turn the heat back on, but you can't hear me talk when the heat's on. It's just blowing. It's loud. But I'm going to turn the heat back on, and I'm going to, most of this video won't have very much audio to it because it's basically putting on the bell housing, sliding the transmission in there, and bolting everything up. Not really much to say. Y'all have seen me do it before. The only difference is all those modifications. Now, if you've been watching this series, if not, you need to go back and watch Gremlin 4-speed swap part 1, 2, 3, and then this one. I think this is the 4th one. And hopefully, if we get this old drive shaft thing going, it'll be the final one. If not, we'll have one more probably on this of actually getting the drive shaft in, getting it driving, and we'll take it for a little spin and see what we can do. Maybe we'll burn out. I don't even know if it'll do a burnout. Probably a single smoker. I don't think it's a posi. Pretty sure it's not. I'm not sure what AMC called their posi. The Mopar calls it Sure Grip. Chevrolet calls it Posi Track. I think somebody else had True Track, maybe? I don't remember. Not sure. Ford had the Detroit locker. Excellent rear end. Love the lockers. A little noisy, but I like the lockers. But everybody's got a different word for, double smoker. This one was what I call a single smoker. I think doubles and single smoker just kind of gets it all. So we'll just start a whole new trend of calling them smokers. Double smoker and single smokers. But anyhow, if you watched me in the last video get the shifter all set up, I've been playing with shifter handles and measuring the old one and how far off center it is and what have you. And actually, my nose is running. Yeah, it's cold out. I found an old 3-speed style handle that'll fit the 4-speed shifter, so I'm probably going to use it. I may have to heat it up because it's round, just like the one, so that way I can reuse the whole boot and everything. I really wanted to use that chrome Hurst shifter, but it loops too far back. I'll be shifting like, back here. So probably isn't going to work, and it's going to put it too far towards the center as well because the 3-speed, the shifter actually sat a good 3.5, 4 inches from center, and it's like 2.5 on this one. So we got about an inch and a half difference on the 4-speed. It's putting it over towards the center too far. So I may have to elongate the hole. That's not a huge deal, but if I can get a handle that kind of goes, the right way, because the other ones were going that way, and I needed to go that way. Well, it looks funny on the camera, so everything's backwards. But anyhow, those are the crossroads we'll have to get to, and of course I'll do some audio when I get to that point. But at this point, all I'm really trying to do today, because I'm freezing my buttocks off, is just get her in. Get it in, lined up, see if my drive shaft's going to be the right length. That way I can get whatever parts I'm going to need and hopefully finish this project, get her on the road by next week. Next week will be New Year's. I got a nice 4-day weekend. This weekend was so bloody cold. We were in like the negative numbers, and I don't know how many of y'all are southern folk, but we're here in Tennessee. I do live on the mountain, so it tends to be a little cooler up here on the plateau. But it's not this cold, Usually it sits, like next week's going to be in the 40s. Usually high 30s, low 40s is kind of it for around here. You have a few cold snaps here and there, and then, life stops when that happens. And we've had single-digit numbers this weekend. So if you watched my Christmas special, my Christmas Eve special, I actually aired it on Christmas Day, but I actually made it Christmas Eve. I was sitting in my kitchen because it was too cold to go outside. There's just no way I'd have been sitting here talking. Right now my nose is froze. My fingers are okay, oddly enough, because I've had the heater running. So like I said, I got it a little toasty 30 degrees or so, and I'm going to turn it back on here in a minute. But I'm going to try to get the transmission in. I'm not going to do a lot of audio. Probably throw some cool music in there. Nobody has suggested what kind of music they like, so I'm supposing that y'all are digging the music that I like. I like, you know, kind of punk rock, not acid rock, but well, yeah, acid rock too, I guess. I'm not even sure if they call it acid rock, but you know, metal, mostly metal. I really like metal. I'm an 80s guy, you know, so, you know, metal. So if you guys are liking the music I'm throwing out there, great. We'll just keep it going the way we're going. I did have one guy complain, but it was about a video that I had some R&B in, and I guess he didn't like R&B. I like R&B, but it's got to be fitting to what's going on, you know. But he said he didn't like it, and I've not really run any R&B since then. But hey, you know, if somebody else comments, no, heck no, I like R&B, I'll throw some more back in there, you know. But nobody's ever made any comments whether they like the music or not, except for that one guy, and he didn't like the R&B. Most of the time I play metal of some sort or some kind of punk rock, and I'm a rocker. I like rock. I like all sorts of music though. I mean, I like classical too, but probably not going to put it on the channel just because, you know, fast forward to classical, just don't really jive. Got to have a little upbeat going on. I've heard some guys doing country, you know, and some guys doing like weird little, you know, flute music or something. And it's all good. It's all good. It depends what you guys like. Personally, I like rock, so that's what I'm going to play. Unless I hear a bunch of guys, you know, out there, or girls, I'm sorry. I want to make sure to include the ladies, you know, that like something different, and I'll throw some of that out there. But normally when I'm editing, I've got to listen to the music while I'm recording it. So, yeah, I play what I like, you know. I'm going to stop talking now and going to start working. I'm going to let you guys see what I'm doing. Don't really need to explain it. You've seen me modify the bell housing. You saw me modify the transmission. And if you haven't, you need to go back to part 1, 2, and 3. You've seen me modify the shifter. So everything is it should go. The last thing's going to be the drive shaft. And I have made drive shafts in the past. And the problem is the drive shaft I'm taking the yoke off of is an aluminum drive shaft. It's a big aluminum, you know, later model truck. And, of course, the Gremlin's got the old steel tubing, you know. And it's very small. It's a very small drive shaft. And it's very short, super short. So for me to modify, I've got to get that bigger joint on there somehow. And I don't see putting a larger end on the drive shaft, so I may have to have one custom made where I use a larger drive shaft and we put the smaller end over by the rear end. Or my other option is, but this would not allow me to get it done by New Year's, the other option is make myself a rear end. I have, you know, the jigs to make shorten rear ends. So I could shorten myself a nice, I've got 8 3/4 coming out of my ears around here. I could put a nice 8 3/4 Chrysler rear end in the back of this thing, and that would eliminate all my problems because, you know, the joints are bigger. But I really don't want to go through all that. I want to drive this car, and I kind of, you know, it's not a real hot rod. It's got a 290. It's not a big powerhouse. I think they put out 235 horses or something like that. You know, it's not a powerhouse. Don't really need a, you know, bulletproof rear end. If I break this one, well, yeah, we'll put something bigger in. But until then, I want to drive it. So anyhow, drive shaft's probably my biggest hurdle at this point. But let's just go ahead and get this transmission in, get this day finished, and get my heat turned back on, and just kind of hang out and watch. Well, I guess this is time for one of those wah, wah, wah things, right? Well, my plan was up here, and where this boot is, I was going to put the bolt in backwards. That's all well and good, except for the fork has to be installed at this point. and the fork is blocking the bolt from going in. Now, I can get it to work, but I'm going to have to pull the transmission back, possibly have to take the bell housing off, put the bolt in first so it's already in there, and then, and only then, can I get in there, and it's going to be one of those half quarter turn at a time thing. Bloop, 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 bloop. So, but I really like the idea of that being there. I've got other ideas. I thought about creating a bridge here, and then I can just bolt into this bolt up here. That's an idea too if this one fails, but right now it's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the transmission back out. And it's the last bolt. Why did I wait till the last one? And I'm going to pull the transmission back and see if I can't sneak this in there, you know, and then we can pull the tranny in and just kind of catch this and start threading this in as the transmission goes in. That may work. If not, I'm going to have to pull the bell housing back and put this bolt in first. Yeah. Well, you know, we're still in the planning stages. It would have been a lot nicer if I just bought the right bell housing, wouldn't it? This should work fine. Again, I can always build a bridge. I thought about using this bolt and just creating a clampage type situation, you know, and I could still go that route. You know, put a nut and a bolt here kind of thing, and create a bridge where, yeah, I don't really like that idea, but it's another possibility. If this fails, I've got a bolt hole right, I mean literally right, no, that won't work because she's too close, but I've got one here that I could create a clampy situation, you know, boop. But I like the idea of coming in from this direction. It's just so close in here, and that I just can't. And this is up against the pressure plate. Ooh, just enough play, that's perfect. So anyway, I had to shut my heater off in order to show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this back, get that bolt in there on the other side, and then see if I can't get it to come in again. But in the meantime, I'm going to run my heater. And I'll spare you guys watching me put the transmission in twice. If I can get this to work though, then I'll just, you know, look, it worked, it worked. If it didn't work, well, we're back to the drawing board, and it's starting to look bleak about having this car done for New Year's. So let's give it a shot. Let's see where we end up. Next hurdle. This is the proper yoke for this transmission. And let's see, I'll put this over here. It's not overly cooperative. And this is the Gremlins. Alright. So you can see the difference. And then the U-joints, just a little different. And what you didn't see me do off camera, because it's just talking on the phone, you know, was order what I call a bastard joint. I don't think bastard's a proper term anymore. I know what it means, but in reality it just means that not necessarily 100% from, like, well, let me think. It means you're not married, right? So, kid born to somebody who's not married, or a joint that is not married to the right person or the right object. I guess is kind of why they call it a bastard joint, is because it doesn't belong there technically. You know, one joint, one side of the joint has to go to Mama Chevrolet, right? And the other one has to go to Papa AMC. Okay, but they were never bedfellows. Never legally married to each other, right? Okay. I guess that's how we'd put it. I think the proper political term is combination joint, asymmetrical joint, which is the letter A, asymmetrical, meaning not symmetrical. Just not it's different on both ends. Basically, what it means is so. I'm not really 100% sure why. I try to give you the David Essig description of why they call it a bastard joint back in my day. Today, I guess it's probably not a good term, but back then that's what it meant. It meant you're just never, by, legally, ever been married together. You know what I'm saying? The one was GM, the other one is AMC. Now, AMC is kind of like the redheaded stepchild anyway, right? Because AMC had Ford parts, right? The starter in this thing is Ford style in the solenoid. The U-joints on this are kind of the Mopar style, the old inside clip Mopar style. And the, let's see, what else? And the transmission's GM, right? The 4-speed, the 3-speed's a Saginaw, I think. And the 4-speed is a Borg Warner. Those were all GM products. If it was a Mopar product, come with an 833. If it was a Ford, it probably would have come with a top loader, or I don't know what was popular in those days. Automatics would have been a C4 or C6 if it was Ford. And I'm not really sure what design they use on the transmissions. Somebody out there, Leonard, you probably know. There's some AMC guys out there that know what transmissions, automatic transmissions that were installed in these cars. I'm not really sure where they came from. Now their engines were kind of all their own. They didn't make engines from anybody else's design until later on, because of course Chrysler bought AMC, and so the Jeep started getting Chrysler stuff, and then Daimler bought that. So now you're getting like Mercedes engines and things. Whatever. Okay. But in reality, we're trying to make two things together that have never been legally together. Okay. And so AMC is a little bit of that redheaded stepchild, the bastard to begin with, if you will, because she's always been a company of a conglomeration of other parts that they could buy. But we're going to continue in AMC ways, and we're going to put in a joint that is going to go GM on one way and going to go AMC on the other end. And this, woohoo, is it. If you look at it, you can see that one side is bigger than the other side, right? And what you don't see probably by the naked eye is this cap is actually bigger in diameter than this cap is as well. Now, just because I like to give credit where credit is due, I want to give a shout out to Brent at Summit Racing. This guy, I called him up and I said, I want to make a Gremlin with a mouse. He about died. He's like, what? And I said, well, yeah, I've got a Gremlin and I need to mate it to a Borg Warner Super T10 transmission. I've got a yoke out of a 98 Sonoma, GMC actually, but it's GM. And so I've got a yoke out of that, and I've got a drive shaft out of a Gremlin, which is hen's teeth, Gremlin stuff. That guy spent, I'm going to say, I'm going to try not to exaggerate, but I'm going to say at least a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, trying to call Curry Enterprises, trying to call Spicer, trying to call all these different people, but it was like the night before Christmas, and all through the neighborhood, everybody was closed. I think it was a Friday night, though. It was actually the night before Christmas, the night before Christmas. But he tried. This guy, maybe it was the Monday after, I can't remember, whatever. Yeah, it was the Monday after Christmas. But everybody was closed. I guess they closed for the week or whatever. Couldn't get a hold of anybody. But that didn't deter the guy. This guy kept working, kept punching them keys, trying to find a joint that would work for me. And he did. He got one that was very, very close, that I was able to, with some minor modifications to the yoke, especially, and I didn't realize it when I was asking him, that the joint on the later model General Motors, they don't have retaining clips, right? They got like poured wax retainers. Now they did that on steering columns years and years ago, and they've done that on a few other things, even the older school stuff. But on the drive shaft, they're retaining. They got these little holes in the top of the yoke, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. But yeah, I guess if you kind of look right in here, you'll see like a little nib. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little nib there. And that little nib is where they poured in plastic. And that's how the joint's held in there. So I'm going, okay, well, I need, something a little simpler. I'm not going to go pouring plastic in. I don't have a way to do that. I could probably figure it out. But rather than do that, I don't know. I didn't have any idea how they do it, to be honest with you. But maybe somebody out there can bleep bloop. Bleep bloop, is that proper terming? Bleep blooping? But anyway, somebody could put there in the comments how that happens, how they do that. So maybe some of you driveshaft guys can enlighten me a little bit. All right. But anyway, nonetheless, I think the distance that I needed was 556. So it was like 1 inch, or 2 inch 556, I think, or 3 inch 556, something like that. And he could come up with a 2 inch 625. Now that's a substantial amount of difference. You're talking like 50 grand, right? 50,000 is 556, 60, 555, 66, 76, 86, 96, 600, 610, 620. So that's like 70 thousandths, right? That's quite a bit of difference. All right. So I'm thinking, well, that's a lot to take out of a yoke, right? But then I thought about it, and this, is not. This only I have 7 thousandths difference, so that's going to be an easy fix. But I can grind, 30 thousandths on a side, and 30 thousandths, folks, is only little bitty. It's not big. So I can grind 30 thousandths out of each side and still have plenty of material to make this happen. So thank you, Brent. Anybody who needs help with something like that, Brent from Summit Racing is the bomb. I'm going to let him know I give a little call out to him because I want to give credit where credit is due. And kudos to Summit Racing for hiring him because he worked hard for me. He really did. And I feel blessed because of it, and I thank him very much. Thank you, Brent. Nonetheless, back to what we're talking about. We're going to go ahead and modify these yokes, this yoke and this drive shaft. The drive shaft, like I said, it's like 7 thousandths. And that could have been my measuring because there's a little crud in there. So probably just tickle it, just clean it up a little bit, and the drive shaft should be fine. The yoke, however, we will probably have to take a little bit of material, and here's the clincher on that. Is I want to make sure that I take the same amount on each side. Because if I take too much on one side and not enough on the other side, it's technically going to make my U-joint do this. A very minute amount, but it might be enough to cause a vibration. So we want to try to make sure we get this U-joint as centered as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the outside of the, measure this. Once I get the U-joint out and I can get good measurements, I'll clean it all up real good, get good measurements, and then take a little off one side, take that same amount off the other side, and just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I get the measurement that I need. Now, this may or may not be something the average backyard mechanic will want to do, but I'm the average backyard mechanic, but I'm a little crazy. I'm willing to do stuff, you know what I mean? If it breaks, you need to replace it anyway, right? That's the way I look at it. But I'm going to measure the joint, exactly what measurement I need, and then I'm going to tickle each side. But first, we just got to get this off of here, and same with the other one. And I'm going to do this one first because this one needs the most work. And also the rear U-joint on the Gremlin is no good. It's crunchy. I don't know if you understand what crunchy means, but you try to turn it, and it's like, it doesn't turn smooth. So it's got to go. Go a new one of those too. And believe it or not, you can order that one. And they have it in stock. I believe that one, I got that from Summit Racing as well. But I did find it also at Rock Auto and Napa. Napa had one in stock. So don't fret on the old Gremlin stuff, but trying to put 98 GMC parts against your 75 Gremlin drive shaft, well, you might need to call Summit Racing and ask for old Brent. But other than that, let's go ahead and get started. Probably won't show you all the, putting the Gremlin replacement deal on that because it's going to be more of the same. But I am going to kind of try to get all of the modification stuff on the video, and then maybe getting the joint on, getting this mated up with the old Gremmy drive shaft. I think that's going to be kind of fun watching. Might speed it up a little, we'll see. Depends how much I want to yap while I'm doing it, But anyhow, let's get started. Like I said, this is held in by a poured plastic retainer. So what I plan on doing is I'm going to get a torch. I'm going to heat this all up. I'm going to get this little homemade doodad. It's just basically a socket. with an old, I don't even know what you call those, T-handle type situation that I took the T-handle part out. That way I'm not beating on the sockets per se. And I'm just going to try to drive it out of there. I'm going to heat the bottom one up first, and I'm going to heat the top one up, and then kind of go back and forth until I see all the plastic dripping out, and then I'm just going to give her a good old wallop and see what happens. Okie dokie. It's not exactly rocket science, but it should work. So let's just, got a little grease in there already. So let's stick this in here. Put a cabbage on there. See if we can't just press her on there without too much trouble. A lot of times these yokes aren't perfectly flat on the edges. I kind of made this one flat because I needed to be able to measure to do this properly. So I'm assuming that this should go right in nicey nice. And so far, so good. Now, there's my groove. Let's see if I can't get one of these retaining rings in there. Should be able to. The first one will go. It's the second one and the third and the fourth that we got to worry about. Oh, gotta fetch a hammer real quick. Got one right here, I do. So let's just put her in there and try not to mash on my fingers. These things are pretty tough. So you can either wrestle with them, try to hit them with a hammer without hitting your fingers, or you can get it started and then here, that one's in. Now the fun one is going to be the other side, and what I like to do, well, it looks like it went in pretty centered. Let's just kind of see if you can get it started. I like to take the joint and kind of slide it over and make sure, yep, make sure she's in where she's supposed to be. And if I had shirts that didn't have holes in them, then the vise wouldn't get caught up in them. And then just kind of press this one in. That one's going good. And here's going to be the humdinger, is will I be able to get, did I grind it enough? Yeah, I think we did. I think we're almost there. And we gotta move this one over a tad. It looks good. This one isn't touching over here. Let me flip it around. See, she don't want to move any further. She says to me that this one might be hitting, but it's not. This one is not hitting at all. It should scoot over enough to get that one in. Oh, except for, if you look, it's not going to go out because it's up against this. So now what I have to do is I got to get a socket, or I can just tappity tap this one. You could just kind of do. I hate knocking on a brand new anything. So maybe we can just, I don't know. It might, because it's pretty easy to go. Maybe we'll do that and see if I can't just tippity tap it a little bit. Maybe. I might have done it. Maybe, maybe not. I moved a tiny bit. I need to go just a tad more. Nope, it didn't move at all. Alright, this socket will go over the cap. So we just open our vise up. Damn. I gotta get shirts without holes in them. That's just a given. And then we can just, it's gotta go on this side though. And that's the hard part, is I gotta line it up. So, yowza. You really need 3 hands for this. Wonder why God didn't give us a 3rd hand, you know? That would have been so handy. Alright, hopefully I'm in the centered. Probably not, because it's not moving. So I'm probably on the cap. Let's see. It's really hard to know if you're where you need to be. But you'll know, because it'll move easily. Which it's still not. Alright, plan B. Close this up. But you can see why my shirts get ripped like this, because everything hits me in the old belly, you know. So we're going to close it up. I'm going to put a socket like that. And I'm going to put this on there. And, man, do I just hit it? Or do I just hit it? I'm talking like minusculely. Oh, it moved a little bit. So actually, I think we're just going to do it this way. Alright. There it is. Alright. Now, well, that one could move another little tiny bit, I guess. Stress test. See if it passed. Yep, it passed. What I'm looking for is to make sure that this clip is bottomed out. And now this one looks like I can get the clip in. So, let's get this out of my shirt. Get her in there. Get my clippies. It's kind of a long, tedious process, especially when you're dealing with having to kind of make things happen. You know, according to my measurements, this should work just fine, but, you know, things don't always go as... Look at that. She's in there. And what I did is I measured both of these, and when I first started out, they were 490 each, thick-wise. And so that I knew I had 105 thousandths that I had to take out of the whole thing overall. Minus that, that's 62 and a half on each side. I'm sorry, that's 52 and a half on each side. So I took a cutoff wheel, which I ended up eating a little bit of, and or better known as suicide wheels, death wheels. They got a million names, but because they do this, and they, fortunately for me, I had long sleeves on, and it just barely cut through my sleeve and into my arm. But that could have been in my face. So these are dangerous. Be careful. But I just came down here and did the best I could keep it, and I kept measuring, you know, here, 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 and until I got where I wanted to on all corners. And then, as you can see, it worked out just fine. Now we got to do the drive shaft and get these into the front of the drive shaft. I think what I'm going to do, though, And I hate to delay you all. Well, actually, it's going to be that fast for you all because I'm going to go ahead and put the rear joint on the drive shaft first, simply because it sucks having to deal with it with the yoke flopping around. So I'm going to go ahead and put the rear U-joint on first, get that done, and then we'll go ahead and put this on the shaft because we're going to have to modify the shaft a little bit the same way. Alright, we got this one ready to go. Take one of these caps off. Feed her through. Let's go this way in case it doesn't really matter. Alright, come on. Having a dumb moment. There we go. And get her started. When dealing with a drive shaft, it's a little bit different because you're dealing with something that's so long. Dang, this shirt, I'm going to have that sewed up, I think. And then just squeeze her in. Now with this one. Alright. I think what happened is that's as far as she could go before bottoming out on this one. We got them on there. That's our... Okay, a little carried away there. But that's our bastard joint and or conversion joint. Did a little bit of grinding, as you saw, in the insides to make them fit, but they still look pretty darn good to me. What do you think? I guess things were going a little too smoothly because everything's just been kind of falling together until transmission mount. Yep. This is transmission mount on the engine. This is a transmission cross member. Little bit of a problem. So here's my plan. Going to get a piece of plate. Going to mount all four of these, just as if they were mounted to the other transmission. And I'm going to build a plate that'll come down. It'll come down here. Probably have to use some spacers, or we'll figure that out, something. And bolt it to here. Now, whether or not I can get away with a flat plate, or if I should gusset it in some way, I'll cross that bridge when it comes. I can probably just bend this lip out of the way or cut it. I may just cut it and then just hammer it up. And that'll give me a little more support because, I want to come here. And, of course, I got to come down to here anyway, so I'm probably going to go underneath it, so it probably won't even matter. We'll just put some kind of spacers in here. Lots and lots of washers. No, I don't do it that way. I'll use actual spacers. Probably weld them in once I get them positioned. And we'll go from there. I think if I use a thick enough piece of plate, that will suffice. I don't know that I'm going to gusset it. We'll kind of see how things settle in. The transmission is uptight right now, so I'm going to drop it down just a tidbit so she's not... Oh, that's... Okay. I was going to say she didn't come down much, but for whatever reason, she's resting comfortably right there. I don't understand that. And there's plenty of split space between everything. I'll make sure she's not hitting anything. Because I did come up. It goes up. Oh, it goes up quite a bit. Oh, actually, there, she's into something now. So the shifter's up against the floor now. We don't want that. Okay, so we'll bring her down a little bit, about halfway. How about that? I think that's pretty good right there. Or I could put her in a relaxed position, but I think we're going to go right there. And that is almost dead even. I might be able to get, that's too close to the floor. So we'll see. Let's just kind of toy with it and see what I come up with. But I like it right about there. I have this highly complex piece of equipment right here. It's a piece of cardboard. I'm probably going to make it the length of this, and I might even weld. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to bolt it. But I'm going to make this just like so, and just going to find out where the bolts go. It's right about here somewhere. This one's hard because it's let's see. All right. We get one bolt hole in, and then I'm actually gonna bolt this piece of cardboard down. I'm gonna make this longer, but I'm just gonna use this for a template. But I'm gonna bolt this down. This I'm gonna cut out, and I've decided what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend this, kind of like this. Make a Z out of it, and that way. See, I'm going to go kind of like that. It's hard to tell with the cardboard, but make basically a Z out of it. And then it's not going to be much of one. And that way I don't have to put spacers. Sorry about the cough, folks. I've had the flu in the past. Still getting over it. I could put spacers on the flat. I just don't like that. I think it'd be stronger if I don't do that. And I'll just nip this little lip out of here. So I'm going to do that now. Gentle persuader here. Get this out of the way. We don't need to be smashing my speedometer gauge. Dang! I might have to take this out of here, and I can't take this out of here. We might have to heat it up because that ain't moving. Well, something tells me I bumped the camera. Yeah, well, no. There it is. Back at it again. Get the light out of the way. Good heavens to Murgatroyd, Batman. That is fighting me. Well, let's see. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We can cut it with a torch. We can get the plasma cutter on it. I kind of like having the lip there, though. That buggers. She'd be tough. We'll play it by ear. This is... Yep, we're just going to cut it, I think. So much for good ideas. know what this stuff's made out of, but it's tough. Okay, combination grinding, cutting, and hammering, and I got it where I want it. Alright, and now I'm going to go ahead and put this bolt hole in here. I'll assume I can find the bolts. Go ahead and put my bolt hole in. Sucker down. Okay, we got her all in. There she blows. I should be able to let the pressure down and see where she hangs. Oh, I like it. Tail shaft's rather close to the cross member up here. I don't know if it's actually sitting on it or not. Let's see, when I jacked it up, it did. Oh, I don't have this bolted down all the way either. Oh, doop-de-doo. Alright. Yeah, I see it's flexing that. Okay. Well, it's flexing the transmission mount a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. The only problem is if the tail shaft does touch this mount, then I'm going to have, I'll feel the vibration on the car. So we're hopefully, if I have to, I can put some shims in between here. Maybe I didn't bend this quite enough up that way. It does look like it's still sloped downward a little bit, but I've got to get this so it won't flex either. So let's go ahead and take care of that, and we'll go from there. is worth mentioning. Here's a speedometer cable for the old Gremlin. This is the speedometer doodah for this transmission. As you can tell, they're a little different. Okay, this one's got, it actually had a piece of cable coming off of here, you know, that feeds into this, but what I did is it had a little stem that had the cable, and I cut the cable off, and I drilled, well, it doesn't want to come apart now, but okay, there we go. I drilled a hole in it. See that? So you can see it better. There you go. And I drilled a hole in it, and that way, you know, this fits into here, like so, and this will go on here. Now, I had to make this go on there, right? Doesn't look the same, you know what I mean? So there's a little clippy doodah, looks like this, that holds this gear on. So, took that off. And you're saying, so why'd you drill that hole, Dave? And I'm going to show you why I drilled that hole. And by putting this, what I did is I replaced this little clippy thing with an E-clip. Which I don't know if y'all are familiar with E-clips. E-clips, not like the moon eclipse, but, you know, E-clips. Now, the E-clip has, it's an E, so it has a little nub, an ear, if you will, on the back end of it, which keeps it from going all the way in. In this case, I needed to go all the way in, so I took a burr tool and I nibbed that little part of the E, made it a C clip instead, but unlike a regular C clip, they're a little fatter. So my idea is to put this on here and then take the E clip, which is now modified to a C clip, and put it on here. And it's not as easy as it sounds, so I'll struggle with this for a few minutes while... Oh no, I dropped it. A few moments later. Okay, maybe it's more than a few minutes. No, it's just a couple of minutes. A couple of seconds even. The hard part is trying to get this up here, hold it up here, see what the heck I'm doing, and then get this E-clip on here. Because, you know, everything's fighting me in the way, and I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Now get some pliers. Oh, that's falling down now. Just kind of pop that E-clip on there the rest of the way. Which I've tested it before I turned the camera on, and it worked just fine. So it's just a matter of getting everything lined up and making it work. Oh, come on. I actually got the other side on first, so let's try that. I don't know if I'm going to leave y'all suffering with me trying to get this to work, but here we go. Got that side on. And then pop it on with the... I think that's it. I think it's on. Oh, maybe not. Nope, that's not it. Problem is lighting. If I turn the light on that I need to see what I'm doing, you guys won't be able to see, so I'm going to try it. Oh, well, that's not too bad. Okay. So, the idea is that this has to go over here, and I had it on there earlier, and it worked fantastic. But I wanted to show you all, so I caused myself a little grief. But it is what it is. Come on, girlie. There we go. Woohoo! Alright, I don't know if you can see that or not, but C-clip went on, and now this can go over the way it's supposed to go over. Of course, it doesn't want to now. It's being a stubborn mule. There we go. And now, just for the sake of the video, we'll take this put it on there, and the cable's the same size, so it fits on the cable. And then this will screw down on here. So now, there we go. Voila! Right? How to make stuff fit that ain't supposed to be there. But now, of course, the hold down, I'm going to have to reuse the hold down for this piece, and this will just be hanging out there in space. But it should work. Now, this gear didn't look a whole lot different from this gear. I kind of destroyed this gear because my first object of modification was a little different. But they look like to be about the same size as far as the gear goes. So I think, as far as being accurate, we should be pretty darn close. We'll find out the hard way probably. But you see, this is going to work. Cable's in here spinning. If I spin this, it spins a speedometer. So we should be good. Now I'm just going to put this in, take this back off. The clip's on there, so this isn't going anywhere no more. And I just wanted to show you all that because that was another obstacle. The drive shaft was a bit of a humdinger because that yoke did not want to go in. It would go on about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and then I had to beat it on the rest of the way just because it had so much crud on it and probably rust and what have you. I cleaned it off best I could, but I ended up using a brass hammer to get it to go in. But now that she's hooked up in the back, she's moving in and out with a crowbar. Still a little stiff, but once we drive her a little, it should loosen up. But there we go. We have modified the speedometer, so we should have a speedometer. Because I don't know about you all, there's so many hot rods out there that don't have speedometers. Just because if you buy an aftermarket one, you got to calibrate it, and it, you know how that goes. This should be pretty darn close because we're using the original gear, and it's just turning a cable. So assuming that the speedometer itself isn't too far off, we should be good. Cable's a cable is a cable, little square type cables. I'm actually fairly impressed with how that came out, to be honest with you. And fortunately, if I took all the brackets off from dashboard to, not dashboard, but from firewall to transmission, I was able to get the cable to reach. That was another thing because the cable was, of course, it's on the other side on the 3-speed. So you've got to loop it over the top and into the transmission. And I had to do the same on that Corvette. So if you look at the Corvette 4-speed switch over, then you'll see that I had to do the same thing because the automatic had the speedometer on the other side. So I'm guessing you have to buy a 4-speed speedometer cable when you put a 4-speed in them. But personally, this works. And if it works, like my daddy used to say, if you fix something temporarily and it only lasts a short time, it was a redneck rig. But if it lasts a long time, it's an invention. Well, here's the hole, and here's the little clippy doodah that holds this in. Oh, I probably should have found the bolt, the nut, whatever, bolt. The funny story is, when I took this off, I dropped it, and when I dropped it, it went right into the drain bucket. Yep. So I had to go fishing before I could finish this. But here we go. Just gonna put this in, just the way it was. I lubed up that doodah a little bit. Now I gotta try to. It's got a little groove that this fits into. I don't know if that's it or not. I guess that works. So okay. So let me fetch the. Oh, I got it right here. Look at that. So I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's got a little notch cut in it. And I wonder if that's, I don't know what that's for, but probably sticking my fat head right in the view, what's going on here. But we'll try to let you watch without me getting my fat head in there. Alright, and then we're just gonna get this wrong size, get the right size wrench and suck it up. Now answer me this. I know AMC is American Motors, and they had Ford parts, and they had Chevy parts, and they had all sorts of parts from everybody. But answer me this. Why is this bolt 10 millimeter? To my knowledge, AMC never put, well, nope, that's a lie. They did side with. They got bought into by Renault at one point in time, the French automotive company called Renault. But that was well after this old Gremlin was built. So I don't know. You tell me why there's a metric bolt in there, but it's definitely 10 millimeter. So now we're going to take my invention, and I'm probably going to get my fat head in the way. Try to get this to go in here without kinking it. Come on, girlie. Oh, there we go. Oh, nope. Come on. There we go. There we go. It's going to be just like the vet. The vet was kind of a humdinger to get in there straight too, because of the angle and all that good stuff. There she goes. Keep going that route. But she's going. And she ain't kinked or nothing, so that should go pretty darn good. Might have to zip tie it to something. Alright. Might have to get a pair of channel locks and try to tighten that up just a tad more, but there you go, folks. That's it in a nutshell. Got the old drive shaft in. Got the speedometer hooked up. It should work, right? I'm kind of impressed with myself. You ever do something like, wow, I figured that out. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm excited about that. I just thought I was gonna cut the gear and make it shorter but nope. I ended up. It's gonna work. I'm pretty confident. Anyhow, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some oil in the transmission. 90 weight, I believe it is, 80, 90 or something like that. I'm gonna put 2.3 quarts of that in there, and then I'm pretty sure you can see this, the old exhaust. Now, when I had the 3-speed in it, and I got it running with the 3-speed, there was a lot of clanging going on. And the reason being is the loop that I put over the differential was not tall enough. And so what happened is when I put the car back on the ground, because she's hanging right now, when the suspension is loaded, it's only got about an inch of travel before that differential was whacking the tailpipe. So I ordered a loop. In fact, I'll show you that when we get to that. But I ordered a loop from Summit Racing, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And that's hopefully going to fix that problem. But let me think if we have anything else to do. I got to hook up the clutch linkage. That's no big deal. That'll take me about 5 minutes. And I think we're almost done. Oh my gosh. It's not too far. Nope, I'm lying. Today is the 1st. Today is the 1st. So this is technically my deadline. I would be okay with tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm still off from my regular job. But it'd be nice to be able to finish it today. I'm pretty darn close. Got to put the starter in, hook the clutch linkage up, fix this exhaust. I think that's it. I think that's it. So assuming I don't run out of gas or get hangry, we should be able to get this done today. Might wait till tomorrow to drive it, because depending on what time I get finished, because gotta move all the cars out. It's in the back of the shop, so I've got to move all the cars out of the front of the shop to get this thing out of here. But we are taking this thing for a drive tomorrow, for sure. That means we finished it today, and today is the 1st. So, I don't know. I said by the new year. So this technically is this is the new year. So is it considered by the new year, or did I have to finish it yesterday to be by the new year? To be honest with you, I'm happy if we get her done today for sure. We had the cross member. That was one of the hurdles. Drive shaft coming out with a bastard joint, and I was able to, like I said, thank you to Brent from Summit Racing for that one. We got that worked out, and then the speedometer. That was the next big hurdle. Bell housing, of course, and again, that's a hurdle I probably could have avoided if I just spent more money. And I probably could have bought a cross member too. I'm sure somebody out there makes one. I don't know, did Gremlins ever come with 4-speeds? They probably did. You guys, you Gremlin guys, I know there's a lot of you AMC guys out there. Let me know, did Gremlins come with 4-speeds or not? I know they came with V8, so they must have, because the 3-speed didn't mate to the V8, so I'm guessing they must have. So, but you guys that know a lot more about AMC than I do. I'm a hot rod guy, not a numbers matching novice kind of guy. That's just not my thing. But you guys that know a little bit more about original stuff, go ahead and bleep it into the comments whether or not you know for sure if they came with 4-speeds, and if they make a cross member. One guy did write me and say that to put a V8 in a Gremlin, you have to change the K-frame. Oops. Glad he didn't tell me that until after I did it, because I was like, oh crap, I'm not gonna do that. So sometimes not knowing is a good thing, right? This whole thing is, a Dave Essig creation, but I'm okay with that. Mopar gas tank and bastard U-joints and homemade transmission mounts and improper bell housing, Jeep bell housing. Probably supposed to have a 4-wheel drive thing hooked up to that, but it took just about it. It's supposed to be universal. It takes every transmission but the T10. It takes T10 now. All right. So let's just get this wrapped up, put some fluids in it, get her back to earth. And that's well, I got to hook up that shifter. No, we got to get the shifter done. That's going to be next because that's going to be next. I thought before I started on the shifter, I would stress the importance of keeping your shop tidy and neat and clean. Okay, I'm failing that part miserably. I pulled the cars out of here and it looks a lot cleaner. But I've come to the conclusion that I've got lots and lots of stuff. Y'all need to come buy some of this stuff. Take it off my hands. Because this is just crazy. But anyway, let's get back to work. I tried to get the shifter to go in, but she sits back a little bit further than the other one. And I can feel the shifter mounting bracket right here. So I need to cut this back a little bit. There's a very small hole for that 3-speed. So I don't need to go this way any further. I just need to go this way enough for the shifter. So I'm going to use this little body saw here because it doesn't make sparks. I don't want to booger stuff up in here. So we'll start right here. Watch the fingers. I think that should be adequate. This is not supposed to, it's got a safety. But look, the safety doesn't work. It just gets in the way. Almost ate my finger because I trusted the safety. Don't ever do that. Alright, so shifter's going to go to about here. Alrighty. Now, the cool thing about that is it went through the carpet as well as the metal. There. Now, assuming that's as much as I want to take out, that should be more than enough. I might even put some of that back. So before I Well, once I get the shifter in there, it might be hard to cut that loose. I don't really think I needed to cut that much. Let's see. Well, let's just go ahead and put the shifter in, and then I'll cut that off if I have to. We'll get her done. Let's figure it out. But let's go ahead and leave it just bent back for now, because I may only want to cut half of that. I may want to cut all of it off. Let's just see how much. That should be more than enough. I could almost have cut half of that, maybe. But let's see where we end up. And oh, it's getting tight in here. Oh, there we go. These body saws are great little tools. First day I tried this, I couldn't get it to go in because it was hitting the floor. Now we gotta see if we can get her in. Well, I think, except for that's awesome. Nope, not really. The bolt for the shifter is hitting the floor. Well, there it is, but it hits the floor. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. So, yep, the bolt is hitting the floor before I can get it to go through the shifter itself. It's hitting the floor right there. So I have two options. None of them are good. I can drop the tranny down a little bit in order to get that bolt in, or I can drill a hole across from it in order to get, nothing goes easy on this car, I've noticed. Of course, that's a pretty long bolt, so maybe I'll try to find a bolt that's not quite so long, and that might solve my problem. Let's try that first. Be faster and easier. Here goes nothing. I got a shorter bolt. It's still long enough to get that nut on the back side. If I have to, I can eliminate that. But let's see. There she go. She's going in. Let's see where's my hole. There she is. Hope if I could see something. Oh. Let's see what we got here. Can't see anything. Yay! Alright, shifter's in. The shorter bolt idea worked. And so the final touches is I gotta find my alignment tool, which basically is a drill bit. This old girl has been fighting me tooth and nail. And I don't know what her deal is. Finally got that shifter mounted. And there we go. There's that one. And oh no. 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 I'm gonna have to take her off of here. See what I mean? Tooth and nail. In order to get this one out, you have to pull your... I'll probably got my head in the way, but maybe not. So I'm going to have to get my bent pliers, I think, to get this one out. Oh my gosh. pull my alignment tool back out, push the reverse lever out of the way, pull this old girl out, put her up and over. Oh my goodness. And that's right, this one has to come. I forgot about this old one, this girl. This one's a humdinger because you gotta disconnect the. You disconnect the paddle too. So, whoop, I guess it's not 5/8. It must be only 16ths. It must be. You just gotta pull her back a tiny bit. And I left her loose for that purpose. There we go. Like I said, tooth and nail. But okay, let's get you in here. I'm just not able to find the hole today, folks. I mean, you guys can make all the jokes you want about that deal, but it ain't happening. Oh, for crying out loud. Now here's the other humdinger on this one. I need to get it in here. And oh, that one hit me in the chin. And hope to God that she lines up. And I am hitting my head on everything. See if we can get the alignment tool back in with this together. Let's get one of you back up in here. Alright. I don't know how much of this you can see without my arms in the way here. There we go. Oh, it lined up. Look at that. Alright. And last but not least, the reverse gear, which, let's see, reverse gear don't look quite right. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Alright. Whoop. Well, I thought it was alright. It popped back out. Ah! Gremlins! Telling you. If you ever want to build one of these cars, be prepared. Because they've got these little green monsters that haunt you. And I'm telling you, I hate to admit it, because, you know, I just hate to admit it, but I've made up a few choice words today on this car. She has just been fighting me tooth and nail. What I didn't show you on the video, off camera I guess you'd call it, is I went ahead and fixed the exhaust, and that was a humdinger. But since I already did an exhaust video on this car, I just didn't think it was necessary. But now I'm just going to put these clips in here, and that's all there is. Would you stop doing this? It's not wanting to play nice. I'm thinking she's binding a little bit. That could be a problem. But I don't know. She's in there. Oh, that's right. She got that spring clip in there. Duh. I have good news, and I have bad news. Good news is she's done-ish. I made it by the new year, sort of. The plan was to finish this car and take her for a drive. I've got literally one little thing left, which is modifying the shifter handle, because the shifter handle, of course, make sure it goes through all the gears and everything, because the shifter handle sway goes way back, and because of the relocation of the shifter, it's going to probably have to be bent forward. So it's going to take a little time to do that, and I'm out of time. So did I make it? My plan was to actually drive it tomorrow to work, but it's going to rain, so which is okay. But I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to be done. I moved all the cars out of the shop so I could drive her on out of here. And but unfortunately, that's not going to happen because I am completely out of time. 4:30 comes early in the morning, and my job is one of those jobs where you don't want to be sleepy. You need to be on your toes at all times. So, needless to say, we're going to end this video saying I made it, sort of. You know, I'm going to modify that handle next weekend. I'm going to flush the radiator because she was running a little bit warm before when I had her running with the 3-speed. So I'm going to flush the radiator, and I've got a formula that I'm going to try rather than buying flush. I've got a formula that I heard works pretty good. I'm going to try it. Y'all get to see that. So it'll make another cool video on it anyway. Shouldn't be very long. I'm literally going to modify the shifter handle, pull it out, flush the radiator. I'm going to run it a little bit with, you know, this solution in there. So it's going to fill her up with water next week and the solution and see if we can't get her to cool off. Might need a thermostat. I mean, this thermostat, I don't understand why this thermostat's only, you know, 15, 20 years old. Should work fine. But if it doesn't, we'll change the thermostat out too. That could be the problem. She doesn't have a shroud. We may have to go that route. But we still got a couple of minor things to finish up on this car. But in reality, it's done, theoretically. It's not tested, but it's finished. Getting that shifter in was not easy. Pretty much everything fought me. The exhaust fought me, which you all didn't get to see that. But that didn't fight me any more than exhaust usually does, because I don't have a bender. But let me see if I can think back. It's like a woman having a baby. When you finally finish, you're like, I remember the pain. But but there was a lot of it. Everything took forever. Missing nuts and bolts. The bolt on the shifter being too long. Finally got that to the right length. I ended up making one. Nuts and bolts, they just disappear when you're working on this stuff. Of course, some of them, you know, didn't belong there in the first place. So anyhow, but the drive shaft, it fought me. The shifter, it fought me. The bell housing didn't work out as planned. You know, wah, 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 if you remember that. You know, that bolt coming in from the other side wouldn't work. And there's no way I could make it work, you know, because my original plan was to put the bolts on the inside and put the, put the bell housing on with the transmission. Couldn't do that because of the way that the fork fits in there. There's a little spring that has to be connected, and that was in the way of that bolt. That shifting, that clutch fork was just not going to allow that bolt to happen. So we came up with a little clampy idea. But this job, you know, and I got most of it on video with the exception of the exhaust, was just one battle after another. A lot of times it was making nuts and bolts. A lot of times I went high and low to find that one socket head cap screw, and then when I finally got the socket head cap screw, I didn't have a tool to make it work. So I ended up having to buy a tool. I ended up going, thank God for Harbor Freight, right? Went to Harbor Freight, bought a whole set of larger size Allen heads because, well, I bought Allen sockets. Is that what they're? Not really sure what they're called, but they're, you know, they're a socket tool that goes on your impact or whatever. These are actually impact Allen heads, so they, you know, click onto your impact wrench and then it's an Allen head on the other side or hex head, whatever you want to call it. Nonetheless, we finally, with the exception of the shifter handle, and hopefully that won't turn into a fiasco. I've seen cars where you go to shift in the air. Knuckles are in the old dashboard. We don't want that to happen. I don't want to be shifting way back here either. So, anyhow, so we're done today. We're done with this project, sort of. We are still going to flush it. We are still going to make the shifter handle. And hopefully, then we're going to take it for a test drive. And maybe wash this bad boy. It's supposed to be 50-something next weekend. So we might be able to get to wash all this mold off. If not, I will take it to the car wash. And we'll get to do it there. And we'll go from that route. But next weekend should be fairly interesting because we're actually going to drive it next weekend. I apologize for not getting that far this weekend. But I'm going to call it a success-ish. It's a win. I did want to get the shifter in before the end of this night, so I'm running kind of late now. But this is going to be a pretty long video, I'm thinking, so you guys are probably tired of hearing me talk at this point. So please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Throw in some comments like that, and by all means, mash on that like button for me. I appreciate all of that. It helps me out immensely. So, biggest thing is subscribing. I do so appreciate you subscribers. You guys are what makes this all possible. Because honestly, it's a pain in the old hooskow having to move the camera around, make sure your lighting's good, trying to keep your head out of the video, you know, so you can actually see what's going on. It's rough. I've talked to some other, you know, I've not talked to them, but I've actually watched some other YouTubers kind of say the same thing. You know, it's hard to keep on going. You kind of, sometimes you just want to shut the stupid camera off and just keep on doing what you're doing because you enjoy the hobby. But I want you all to be able to enjoy the hobby with me, so please subscribe. See ya.